Hello all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the attendees following this is stock-taking series, the Coronavirus Response ICT Case Repository. It is 12 o'clock noon here in Geneva, and we are eager to start off this special series of sessions, which will continue until the end of March, with 2 sessions scheduled each week. Each Tuesday at 11 a.m. or noon, we will host sessions to cover stories from Asia and Pacific, Europe and the Africa regions, while on each Thursday, we will be hosting sessions at 4 p.m. Central European Time to showcase ICT projects from the Americas region. For more information on the schedule and program of this series, please go to WSIS Forum 2021 website and look for the agenda. We'll post the link in the chat of this Zoom webinar for you to click and follow. Mark your calendars, promote sessions within your networks and communities, and submit your ICT stories on how you have been using information and communication technologies to respond to the coronavirus pandemic by entering details in our open consultation process online submission form, also hosted on the WSIS Forum website. Before we start today's session, let us all take a moment in recognizing the amazing efforts from the WSIS stakeholder community, which were submitted through our WSIS stock-taking platform with more than 400 submissions so far since the launch of this special repository in April last year. This is an ongoing call for submissions, and we invite you all to continue submitting success stories to this stock-taking repository. Ladies and gentlemen, this workshop series highlights the effects that the coronavirus pandemic has had on the work and lives of all of us in the last 1 year, while showcasing the role that ICTs have played in developing solutions towards the unique issues the pandemic presents. It is our pleasure to have with us today a diverse panel of guests, ICT practitioners from various backgrounds who will try and surely succeed in sharing some of their innovative activities which were introduced in tackling these extraordinary challenges and have managed to continue working efficiently and to create a social, economic, and environmental impact, helping communities around the world. Let me call our first speaker for today, Ms. Sofia Reyes Muri from the EPFL here nearby in Lausanne to share with us how has this pandemic impacted the work of your organization, what were the challenges, and how have you managed to respond and tackle them?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vladimir. Bonjour, buongiorno, hello. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for giving us all the opportunities to promote and exchange ideas regarding all these marvelous projects. So regarding the COVID-19, I would like to evoke the picture of a pedagogical storm that forces us to navigate in the unknown waters of distance learning, new tools, new strategies, and of course, new challenge. So our challenge was how to support a community of teachers around robotics, computational thinking, computer science, and programming during COVID-19. Many questions have emerged during the last months, such as what activities can we do at home? Do teachers have the tools, hardware, software to do such activities? Training in times of lockdowns, how and what? How can we maintain our community alive, and how can we maintain the teacher commitments and facilitate the autonomy of them using ICT? So schools were closed, events were canceled or postponed, training for teachers were also canceled or postponed, and the resources available were sometimes not adapted for this scenario. So all these questions were there at the same time of all having to deal emotionally with the mourning of certain projects, activities, way of doing things. But the rebirth or adaptation in the face of new challenge, it's an incredible, great opportunity for us to innovate. So several areas for improvement have emerged in our case. We have had several brainstorming sessions with the Roteco team and with our partners. And we also managed to do an online survey with around 87 teachers to provide us with a list of improvements. So, for example, we have organized events online and webinars for teachers in many languages and topics to inspire teachers and push a bottom-up effect. We need to not forget the skills acquired thanks to the online training and the international open that online events such this one can promote. We launched also an initiative asking the members of our community of how to adapt the resources. Teachers play the game and post activities. The call for help worked because in this way you value teachers by including them in the solution. And we provide also general and specific advices with the teaching in distance and propose videos and actions to make them aware of the Federal Office Public Health of hygiene measures. For example, we organize a contest to create a hydroalcoholic gel dispenser programming with the Timio educational robot. And we try also to highlight projects that can be carried out remotely. For example, the R2T2 project, which allowed children from all over the world to program the robots remotely from any part of the world. The physical robots are located in Switzerland, but the children can be far away. And I think that it's important to be aware that some activities require robots, others require a simulator, but we also promote the unplugged activities because sometimes the schools or the teachers, they don't have the resources. And I will say that our project is in constant motion. It evolves according to the needs that we see, and the COVID had changed our needs, and we are adapting to these needs.
Thank you, Sophia. EPFL has been spearheading lots of technology innovations. We all have witnessed, not only here in Switzerland, but around the globe, of the innovative solutions that this university and the whole family around it have been providing so far. Dr. Salah Al-Najem, could you please tell us, as the leader, the founder of the Information Age Consulting based in Kuwait, how were you responding to this pandemic crisis? You have submitted a particular project to the VC stock-taking platform. Could you please tell us a bit more about it and briefly describe it?
Thank you, Vladimir. Thanks for this opportunity in which we would like to talk about our project, which is Social Watcher. Social Watcher is an online service which allows for providing the public, providing the decision makers with social media analytics, big data analytics that utilize artificial intelligence, natural language processing, big data analytics, and visualization to analyze the public opinion trends on social media regarding social, political, economic issues related to Kuwait. So with this pandemic, people are eager to know more about the public reaction towards the pandemic spread in Kuwait and towards the governmental activities and response towards that pandemic disaster. And we know that the lockdown, the effect, how the pandemic affected the teaching process, economic activities, all these activities have been heavily impacted by the corona pandemic. So we wanted to give the public and the decision makers a platform, a web-based platform, giving them insights, KPIs, interactive dashboards, interactive infographics, showing them the analysis of what are the hot topics being discussed on social media regarding this pandemic, and also regarding other social, economic, and political issues. In fact, our business is online based. So we used to provide our services online through an open access portal, Social Watcher, which is watcher.social. This platform gave us a virtual presence and interaction with our audience. Our services utilize cloud computing, on-cloud analytics, visualization, web service integration, big data analytics, and all these services are cloud ready. So we were already cloud ready platform. So accordingly, the dependence on these technologies saved us from the impact of the pandemic, which affected services that depended on physical interaction and applications running on in-house data centers. So I think with the ICT applications, we were saved from the impact of the pandemic on our business and our services.
Definitely so. ICT proves to be one of the platforms that has continuously empowering us, especially during the COVID pandemic, in tackling and providing solutions that perhaps would not be there otherwise. And we definitely welcome the use of these ICT applications, and we look forward to hearing more from you, Dr. Al-Najam. Our next speaker is a librarian, Ms. Mary Wangui Kinyanjui from the Kenya National Library Service. Ms. Kinyanjui, can you please tell us which of the ICT tools and solutions have you, your team, and the Kenya National Library Service introduced during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, thank you very much. I thank the organizers of this webinar for giving me a chance to tell our story. When the library was closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, because our library is within the informal settlement, that is the biggest informal settlement in Africa, that is Kibera, I wondered, how are we going to help our clients? Because this is the only public library within the slum where they get free information, where they come during their leisure time, and they can also do all what they want within the library. Now I had to sit down. After 1 week of the closure, they started calling me and asking me, Mary, you closed the library, what are we going to do? As much as there is the COVID, why don't you organize and be opening for us for some time? But now we had to sit down and be innovative and see how we are going to help them. I started contacting my friends so that I could source for mobile phones so that we could see how we could help them using the mobile phones. And I received some mobile phones from some of my friends who donated their phones. And what we started by doing, we started by downloading some stories from the African Storybook website because they are our partners. I requested them for permission. We downloaded them for the children, and then and other educational games. And also what we also did, we requested some of the stories we had already had in the library. We had to make sure that we put them in this mobile phone so that we could give the children to go and read. We also had the revision papers. We requested some teachers to give us the revision papers they had and download them to the mobile phones. And the first thing we did, we tried to select the children we knew they were good users, whom we knew very well that they would be in a position to make use of those mobile phones because it was a pilot. So we had to start with a few. The first mobile phones I got, they were 10, and we gave them to 10 children. Little did we know that the 10 mobile phones we gave to 10 households, they were being used by one mobile phone by more than 20 children because they could share. Within the informal settlements, they never cared much about the COVID. So all what they were doing, they were gathering in one house and using that one mobile phone. After doing our statistics, we realized one mobile phone was being used by more than 20 children, reading the stories, doing the revision papers, and at the same time, doing games. But we had to make sure that there is control. What we are doing, we had put control, that's such that they could not pray for a whole day, play games. But they were playing games for 1.5 hours and then go back to reading. And this had a lot of impact because it was even featured in two of our TV stations in Kenya. And then after that, I received more. I continued receiving from friends, and this had a lot of impact even to the community, because now it seems now we're even giving them an opportunity of using their smartphones like any other children within the country. And they started learning, and the more they informed other children, more children started coming looking for us, or coming to the library, although it was closed, so that they could also receive their smartphones. And because we opened around January, by January we had managed to receive around 34 smartphones donated by people and even some organization from friends, and they're really having a very high impact to the community. The children have known how to use the smartphones to do revision, to read storybooks, and they can tell stories. That is the much we are doing. And then also we also introduced the youths, whereby we are still using the smartphones also to connect to the youths. We're using a program we have already started, calling it Tech for Everyhood. We are training them on how to work online and connecting them to jobs so that they can work online. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary, to you and your team. This pandemic has affected all of us, including the youngest among, and it's great to hear that libraries are also responding, doing the best they can into reaching out, making sure that children continue to access information, to be educated, and to socialize in this extraordinary times. Satellites are still an indispensable telecommunications infrastructure, in many cases the only one available. It is a great pleasure to have with us Mr. Daniel Ma, Vice President of a leading global satellite operator, SES. Daniel, could you please tell us how has this coronavirus pandemic impacted the industry and the organization you represent?
Hi, Vladimir. Thank you so much for having us here. As a global satellite operator, SES is pleased to have delivered a wide range of satellite-enabled ICT solutions throughout the world in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In terms of the impact of the pandemic on us ourselves, SES, we've all gotten used to working from home, not being at the office, and realizing just how important connectivity is for us to be able to continue to do that. And indeed, we are very pleased that we've been able to extend that into the work we do in being able to deliver ICT applications in those parts of the world where connectivity is perhaps not so easy to come by, and have therefore enabled everything from coordinating the national health response to providing telemedicine in remote communities, to enabling people to work from home and to do online schooling. So, I mean, the impact for SES is it's been a difficult year, but it's also been an incredibly rewarding year from the point of view of just understanding the role we play in the world and what we've been able to achieve, and be happy to share with you some vignettes of what we've done during this workshop.
We definitely look forward to hearing more from you during this workshop, but also during other workshops and sessions at the VISIS Forum 2021. Thank you very much for the contribution. Also with us, Dr. Hannah Tignane, a Principal Research Fellow of the United Nations University based in Macau, where she leads the Migrant Tech Research Project. Hannah, this is definitely a project that is overwhelming outside, not only during the COVID pandemic, how has this pandemic impacted the work of the project?
Great, thanks for the question and thanks for the opportunity to share a bit about what we're doing. Just as a bit of background, UNU, United Nations University, is a research think tank for the United Nations. We undertake policy relevant research on behalf of member states and UN bodies. And our work in my team, we specifically focus on new ways of supporting decent work, so SDG 8. So particularly our work supports frontline responders to assess labour conditions in vulnerable work environments. So by frontline responders, I mean people like police officers and labour inspectors, maybe NGOs doing outreach, and private auditors and supply chains.
Hello.
So we know that coronavirus has disproportionately affected poor and migrant worker communities, forcing them into more vulnerable work situations. And we have a number of different stakeholders who are already using our screening tool, Apprise, to assess the working conditions in the field. Now, when COVID came along, we have problems getting to the field to assess these working conditions. So to give you a bit of background, Apprise really just supports on-site screening, where a frontline responder, whether it's a police officer or an inspector or an auditor, comes in contact with a worker, and it really enables them to make a assessment of the working conditions. Most importantly, though, Apprise helps workers to have a confidential way to report exploitation that they may face. So now with movement restrictions, some auditors and frontline responders were unable to now undertake in-person inspections. So they approached us and wanted to know how can they still gather this information, especially at this very critical time where we know working conditions are changing. So like Sophia mentioned earlier, challenge is a great opportunity to innovate. It gave us a chance to challenge the current way of undertaking social compliant audits. For us, we made two different innovations. So first, we developed a question list that allows people to gather COVID-specific information. So maybe have pay rates changed, or have people being forced to isolate and things like that? Do they have access to hygiene facilities? We also developed a remote audit version to support situations where movement restrictions mean that auditors and labour inspectors cannot physically go to assess working conditions.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much. Definitely challenges do push us to do better and more, to be innovative and to really work together. And this is something that is crucial at the VISIS Forum as well, where we serve as a platform for all of you to share your best practices, to find your partners, to see if any of this can be replicated, and to create something sustainable. I would like to, before we go continue with the session, I would just like to invite all of those following us to please share your questions, concerns, either in chat or in the Q&A session, and we'll be taking some of the questions later. Going back to Sophia from EPFL, you have mentioned some of the projects that EPFL is doing in responding to the COVID-19. Which of other ICT tools would you like to discuss and portray here to our audience? Moreover, what is the role of social networks, in your opinion, within your project and the community?
Yes, so I would like to focus on the Roteco project. So as the name suggests, is robotic teacher community. And in fact, it's a project that it's creating a community of teachers who are exchanging educational activities in robotics, computational thinking, programming to prepare the students for the digital society. And with this community, they reach, test, develop, and share educational activities. They are informed of the latest events, workshops, training courses in this field. And this project is founded by the Swiss academies, but it is supported by 3 institutions representing 3 languages. So we have the SMSI for the Italian speaking part, the EPFL for the French speaking part, the EPFZ for the German speaking part, and one community manager for each language region. And one of the main modification and improvement that we want to do is to make the platform also available in English to give access to international teachers. But of course, in order to be credible, we need to create partnership and collaboration. And concretely, we want to be a hub. So the different parts involved are the institutions, of course, wherever they are initial or continuing education center, the researchers to stimulate the research and create new synergies. It is important to have the theory, but we need the ground. And for the ground, we need teachers, primary, secondary, high school teachers, and teachers from the specialized education with children with special needs for the inclusion. And of course, we have industry and politics. I would like to add, because our project is in technologies, the word of entrepreneurship is also involved. And in order to create this network, we bring together across all the levels of the training system in order to promote innovation at the pedagogical level. And we need to support teachers so they can implement activities in their classroom. But how can we create this ecosystem? So first of all, with initial and ongoing trainings for teachers, giving resources. So the community exists thanks to the sharing of ideas on the platform and the resources of its members, but also by experts. And of course, by promoting and organizing events. And all of this is thanks to the communication and translations. I will give you some numbers, some data, it is important. So we have been promoting 99 trainings that we have advertised thanks to the platform and the social media. We have 129 events that have been announced, 83 authors that have posted on our website. It corresponds around 14 of our members. And we have more than 573 activities, original and translations. And of course, if we say collaboration and community, we say communication. Communication is one of the key points for the development and evolution of any project. It doesn't matter if you have the best product or the best service. If the information doesn't reach the ears of your target, your impact will be less effective. Some examples of way of communication that we keep our community alive is, for example, our Roteco newsletter in 3 different languages, in which we put information regarding the training, events, etc. And we choose some activities of the month to made and share by teachers in order to valorize them and motivate teachers to share. So we keep them informed. And the main article of the newsletter is written by other partners in order to highlight also other projects. I will say that communication is also a matter of experience. To be able to build a community, we cannot only do it by a platform. This is why events, online events, are so important. For the social side, we participate in events in 2 ways. I will say sometimes it's passively, that it's to increase our networking and to do a journalistic work, to write articles and make a report of the event and publish it on the platform. And another way is to participate in an active way, meaning that by presenting and organizing some activities. And finally, I will conclude that our website is linked with content we share in social media, because it's an important place for communication and exchange. Teachers are on Twitter, Facebook, and other social medias. For example, they have their own Facebook groups where they can ask questions and share experience. It is more dynamic and less formal, and it offers an original way of sharing using pictures, GIFs, videos. And we use this channel of communications to spread the info. What do you do when you don't know how to do something? You can go to YouTube and you look for tutorials, videos that explain you quickly and easily how to proceed. So it's the reason why we are present there.
Definitely, we use the digital platforms, social media. We have all been working towards this digital transformation, and this pandemic situation just pushed us to do it faster and better. I would like to still come back to you, Sophia, and ask you, when was this project launched? And if before COVID-19, what was the difference? What has impacted? What was the real challenge for you to continue going back to your community within the project?
Yeah, the project was launched in 2019, and in fact, 2018, sorry. And in fact, the COVID-19 bring members to subscribe more in our platform. We have a curve of users coming up during the COVID-19 because teachers needs to have more resources and information regarding this kind of activities. They were looking for activities in robotics, long distance learning, and the fact that they have a little bit more of time, they can go to the platform, subscribe, and be informed of what was happening on. Also on the webinars, we have more participants during COVID-19 because of course the schools were locked down, so the teachers cannot go to the formal trainings that they were supposed to go. So the fact that we promote these trainings online can also help them to improve in their activities. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll come back to you with more questions. Dr. Al-Najem, how can artificial intelligence and big data analytics help in analyzing the public opinion trends on social media?
Yes, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about a number of applications, a number of technologies which can help in analyzing the public opinion trends on social media to allow the decision makers to know the shift in the public opinion trends, to know also the hot topics discussed on social media. So regarding artificial intelligence, we utilize natural language processing, which is one of the applications of artificial intelligence, to allow the public, the decision makers, the people who are interested in the public opinion trends in Kuwait, to analyze and to know the top topics and the top keywords, the top key phrases, trending hashtags mentioned on social media regarding a specific issue, economic issue, political or social issue, also regarding a specific time frame. So we can analyze the impact of a specific incident, for example, or a specific issue on the public through analyzing the top topics, top hashtags, top keywords, and also analyzing the sentiment, the sentiment analysis, which is also an application of natural language processing, allows us to analyze the sentiment of the public according to what is being said about a specific issue, about a specific topic in a specific time frame. So the system can analyze the sentences to know if this tweet is positive or negative or neutral. And accordingly, the system, our system, which utilizes artificial intelligence and natural language processing, can give you an indicator that, for example, this topic has more than 80% of positive response compared to that topic, for example. Also, natural language processing helped us in analyzing the response to disasters, and this helped the decision makers to apply something called proactive crisis management through listening and analyzing what is being said about a specific incident or issue. So according to our system, we can give the decision makers, also we can give the public insights and KPIs, indicators about the public opinion trends regarding those issues, the change in the public opinion trend or the change in sentiment also regarding those issues, also how people interact with a specific issue or interact with a specific, for example, government entity on social media, and our system can give the public, the decision makers, indicators as or visualized as interactive dashboards, interactive infographics, video graphics. And this is what we have achieved during the COVID pandemic when we analyzed the public opinion trends regarding the spread of the virus in Kuwait, also the response of the government towards this virus. And we have also implemented an online indicator, which utilizes big data analytics and visualization to give the public and the decision makers indicators, KPIs, and also analytics regarding the public interaction with the virus spread in Kuwait through analyzing the top hashtags, top keywords related to the virus, and how the people are interacting with this subject. So all these activities can help in understanding the public opinion trends, understanding the sentiment, and also performing some kind of historic sentiment and the trend analysis through comparing a specific time frame to another time frame. And finally, this gives the decision makers the opportunity to apply something called e-participation, in which the governmental organization can listen, can analyze, and can interact proactively with the public towards what they think about their policies, about their response, through analyzing the indicators and the KPIs related to the interaction with the government on social media. We have found that there is a very good response regarding what we have done through the pandemic, when we saw that our reports, our dashboards were circulated on social media, on local TV channels, and in also the local newspapers.
Thank you, Salah. I would like to ask Mary, related to this sentiment, could you please share with us stories on how children that you're working with have and still are going through related to this pandemic? Maybe a story that you believe has touched you personally the most. What is the objective of the handheld library, and what is the future of it beyond this pandemic?
Okay, thank you. I can say that the children we were working with, actually it started when we closed the library. That was in March, in the month of March. That is when we started the program. And the children we started working with, whom we first gave the smartphones, they have the performance improved even when they went back to school. As much as the teachers were complaining that these children were not learning, the children who were involved in the program, they had good performance when they were given the first tests in school. And I can attest that out of that, we also managed to get more funds from friends who continued donating the funds to the library. And also, we also had another pool which was pulled into the library, that is the teachers. We came up also with a project of training the teachers using the same mobile phones on how to create stories for the children, so that the children could read their own stories created by their teachers. And the teachers also helped us to train children on how to create also their own stories. And in this case, we have about 4 stories which are created by children in the African Storybook website, which are posted there. And this has given the library a very good milestone, because you can see the children really want to be trained on how to create their own stories, write their own stories, so that they can be even read by other children. So I can say that as much as there was COVID, we came up with an innovation of coming up with a new project about the handheld library, where we are able to source for those smartphones to give children so that they can go and read at home. But we give the children the phones in front of their parents. We request them to come with their parents, so that even their parents can attest what are we training the children. And some of the parents also have requests to be trained. So you find that even those parents they are trained, they become IT reiterate because some of them, they don't even have those smartphones. We are able to show them those applications like the revision, the revision papers platform. We are able to show them also the African storybook application, whereby they can access the stories and read with their children. The teachers are able to create their own and write their own stories using also the African storybook, create story application. So I can see that there's much being done within the library by the community. Because also what we do, we always try to study the library, not the library, we also able to study the children, the community, so that we are able to come up with projects which will have an impact and which will also meet their needs. So in this case, you find that the handheld library is really helping those children who even come from far, who cannot be coming to the library on a daily basis. So they are able to come to the library with their parents. After 1 month, we assess, we evaluate what they have read, and then also we are able also to download for them more, either the revision papers or more storybooks, because in the library, that is where we have the Wi-Fi. In their homes, they have no Wi-Fi, neither can they afford neither can they afford the MB so that they can continue reading. I hope I've answered your question.
Definitely so, Ms. Kinyanjui. We would love to connect with these children, and we hope that you will bring them back to the VISIS Forum in some of our virtual sessions, and we can hear their stories from their angle. This is something that we would be much proud of here at VISIS Forum. We also are working strong on creating the special track on ICTs and youth. So a great opportunity to continue having your community, presenting its work and the impact ICTs have on them. Daniel, you mentioned various satellite solutions supporting multiple projects in multiple communities around the world in response to COVID-19 pandemic. Could you please share with our audience some of the highlights and perhaps results achieved?
Certainly. And what we've done to support COVID response has extended into all parts of the world, from both developing and developed countries. So let me start with Italy. In the early days of the pandemic, Italy was one of the hardest hit countries. And what SES did, together with the European Space Agency, the Catholic University in Louvain, and the Luxembourg and Belgium authorities, we helped deploy mobile field testing units that enabled COVID-19 testing to be rapidly expanded and deployed in the Piedmont area of Italy, and that was that helped identify where the virus was, and then help shape the response to the virus. In Mexico, we in just a few short weeks, we helped put up a broadband satellite network to connect 35 remote hospitals in Mexico. This was done in conjunction with the Mexico Secretariat of Health and Secretariat of Communications, as well as with the public telecom operator there called Telecom de Mexico. This network enabled real-time telemedicine, pandemic-related data collection, and the monitoring of the COVID-19 infection curve throughout Mexico. We also leveraged some existing services that we already had in place. We had put up, through the Luxembourg government, we had put up something called SatMed, an e-health platform in Bangladesh and Sierra Leone. In Bangladesh, it's a very interesting solution. It's a satellite terminal installed on 2 ships, as well as 1 hospital on land. And these ships would go up and down the rivers and the coasts of Bangladesh, bringing e-health services to remote communities. When the virus hit, it was relatively easy for us to expand those services so that these hospital ships could be used to respond to the outbreak. And in the first few months of after the pandemic in Bangladesh, these SatMed platforms were had served more than 10,000 patients. And in Sierra Leone, more than 1,000 patients have been served in the same period of time at one remote hospital site connected to SatMed. We also help connect hospitals and communities in the Colombian Amazon, areas that were worst hit by COVID-19. We were able to do this within days. We helped establish 5 hotspots in remote health centers in the Colombian Amazon to connect both the hospital staff and to provide them with telemedicine and crisis response communications, but also to connect the residents who were living around those health centers. And that was done in conjunction with the Colombian Ministry of Telecommunications, as well as a local service provider called Skynet. We also helped expand connectivity in the United States. In Unalaska, it's a fishing city in Alaska. When that state went under a stay-at-home order, the local ISP there found that there was rapid increase in demand for connectivity as people started working from home, doing online schools, and as more and more telemedicine was being done. So we worked together with that local ISP to rapidly expand broadband connectivity, again within days, to accommodate the rapidly increased demand for broadband. And finally, not least, across Africa, Europe, and the Asia Pacific, SES has put up a free-to-air satellite TV channel called Fight COVID-19. Is modeled on an earlier channel that we had put up called Fight Ebola for the earlier epidemic. And this TV channel runs public health information from UNICEF, from AFP, from some online providers on a continuous loop, and it covers things like mask wearing, social distancing, hygiene, how to cope with the life being different under COVID conditions, and so on. And that's potentially receivable by millions of households in underserved and rural communities across these regions. So that's just a snapshot of all the things that SES is doing around the world to support the COVID response.
I'm sure there is plenty of that. It's great to hear that SES is not only building up infrastructure, connecting the unconnected, providing access to information, but also collecting data from the ground during this COVID-19. And this data will, if not already, bring lots of knowledge on how we have responded. Can you please give us some predictions on when this data, when can we expect some data that will lead us towards some additional solutions?
I'm not sure what data you mean. On the COVID-related data that's collected by our partners, we don't keep that information. No doubt that information will be analyzed by the health authorities and the governments in due course. Internally, we are still evaluating all the lessons that come from the past year. Trying to figure out what were the barriers to rapid deployment. We keep asking ourselves, how can we be more responsive? How can we be more proactive? And certainly, as some of the other speakers on this panel have mentioned, it's quite important. I think what's been key has been collaboration and partnerships. Having those collaborations and partnerships already in place, really increase the speed of our responses. In many of these places where we could respond within days or within a short number of weeks, it was really helpful to have those relationships already in place, and then we could expand upon them. In times when we had to build those relationships, then of course that takes more time. We like to connect people, information, and resources, but I think we found that we're more effective when we connect useful people with useful information and useful resources. And in all of that, I think government support has been incredibly important for both initiatives that are led by the government, or led by the private sector or led by NGOs. What's important is that the government is there working side by side and encouraging such initiatives rather than standing in the way or requiring everything to go through them. So yeah, I think those are some of our initial thoughts on this, but I think we're definitely still in the learning stage of understanding what lessons there are to be derived.
Definitely, we see that SES is also committed to the environment and social governance. And here at the VISIS Forum, we'd like to expand more on topics that are related to space and the use of ICTs. We hope to welcome you and your community during the VISIS Forum 2021. Thank you very much, Daniel. Hannah, if you are to share with us a big picture, what would you think that the ultimate goal of this Appraise project is, and what is the future beyond the pandemic?
Yeah, great. So just so I remind you, what Appraise does, it supports the screening of workers in vulnerable situations. So what it does is it helps a frontline responder, whether they're a labour inspector, a police officer, an auditor, to assess the working conditions and see if a worker needs help to leave their work. So in doing so, Appraise asks a series of yes or no worded questions. There's an expert system in the background of the mobile app. So it makes a calculation of the vulnerability of the situation, and that in itself is used to inform the next steps of the inspector when they're in person in front of the worker. So big picture, what happens, because we record these yes or no responses as a computer scientist, yes or no is a very nice kind of data to analyze. So our ultimate goal is to be able to use this information and understand how practices of exploitation change over time, and maybe over sector and over gender of respondent and nationality of respondent, because we know there are all these factors that affect the way people are exploited. We have this information, what do we want to do with it? Well, we want to first of all support better protection. If we can help people who are in these situations to exit these situations, that's a win. Most important perhaps is to have this information to support better prevention strategies. If we can understand the current practices of exploitation, maybe we can create policy to make sure that people don't get exploited in the first place. And then in the long term, if we have a better understanding of how people are being exploited, we can make sure that we can also contribute to better prosecutions as well. So that's long-term, big picture, what we're doing with Appraise. We do work with supply chains. That's most of our focus right now under COVID-19. But before this, we've been working with sex workers, with fishing at port inspections, and in a number of different sectors. So we're going to continue doing this post-COVID, looking at different sectors of work. We're going to start in this year in Hong Kong, looking at different types of work and exploitation there, and how we can support frontline responders as well as the government to support these people who have been identified in these vulnerable situations.
Thank you very much, Hannah, and to all our speakers today for sharing these incredible stories on how ICTs are used to not only combat COVID-19, but overall make impact in the world, in your communities. As all this material that you have shared with us today will be used to a full video compilation that we are producing and planning to launch during the final week of the VISIS Forum 2021, which will take place from 17 to 21st of May. I would also like to ask each of you to share a bit of your personal and professional backgrounds. We really like to share with that audience something about you yourselves. So maybe we can start with you, Hannah. What is that inspires you? Who are you?
Okay. Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm a computer scientist originally. I did my PhD in Australia at the University of South Australia, looking at human-computer interaction. So how do humans interact with computers? I moved to South Africa because I wanted to really look at how can computers support people in underserved communities. So how can we innovate new solutions to provide services to underserved communities? And in 2016, I moved here to Macau to work with the United Nations University to really start this research project looking at a particular underserved community, which is migrant workers in vulnerable situations. So I think that we have such an amazing platform with computers and mobile phones and all of the ubiquitous access to information. And if we can support people who currently are not provided services or support, then that's my ultimate goal.
Thank you very much. We do live in very exciting times, at least technology and ICT technology related. Mr. Ma, satellites were one of the first infrastructures that are still probably using similar technology to where it started. How did you end up in this industry and who are you?
Well, funnily enough, I'm Australian as well. I grew up in Perth. But yeah, I guess I'm a Malaysian-born Chinese, grew up in Australia, did my law degree in Australia, but then went to the US for graduate school and ended up in this sector. You know, the telecom sector and satellites in particular allows me to indulge both my legal training as well as my science geek sort of interests. So this is a career that suits me well, allows me to indulge in all the things I like to indulge in. And I'm very pleased to be working with SES, which I think does a lot of good work in the world. Thanks.
Definitely. Thank you very much for being with us today, Daniel. Mary, they say you're a trailblazer, someone who wants to make sure that libraries are making impact in the African continent. Can you please tell us a bit more about yourself?
Okay, I am a librarian by profession, and I love I love when I excuse me, please. I love when I feel that I have made an impact to somebody within the library by maybe that person accessing information, the right information that he or she can use to change his life. Especially, mostly I love helping the children and the youth. Especially now at this time, you find that there are no jobs. Many of them, they cannot get jobs because of the COVID-19. As much as we have started this project for the handheld library for the children, I've also come up with another project we are calling Tech for Livelihood, whereby we are training the youth on how to work online so that they can earn a living. So I always feel happy and feel that I've satisfied somebody's life when I give up, when I make sure that I have given a service which has impacted somebody's life. So and that is why I keep on trying to see how I can innovate. I can innovate a new program, a new project within the library, so that we can change people's lives. You find like today, the youth, mostly when it comes to technology, they would love to use the technology and do so many things. And mostly you find that in our environment, that is in the informal settlements, many of them, they lack Wi-Fi. They don't have even the devices. So in this case, I keep on partnering, looking for partners who can support our library so that we are able to provide these services to these youths. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mary. Dr. Al-Najem, we have been working for several years now within the VISIS process and the VISIS forum. We know you are an entrepreneur, you're a professor, you are a CEO, but from your own words, how would you describe yourself?
Thank you, Vladimir. I'm an associate professor of computational linguistics and natural language processing at Kuwait University. I received my master's and PhD degrees from the University of Essex in England, specializing in computational linguistics. In fact, I work also in Kuwait as the founder and CEO of Information Aid Consulting to benefit from my academic background in the commercial sector or the private sector. So I deliver services through my consultation firm to the governmental sector, to the private sector. Our main lines of business are natural language processing, text mining, big data analytics, and visualization, and e-learning. And I think this project we featured in this panel discussion, Social Watcher, is a sample of our one of our projects related to the utilization of ICT and specifically artificial intelligence and natural processing towards benefiting people and benefiting the community.
Thank you very much, Salah. And Sophia, they
Yes.
say you have the incredible mission of bringing the Roteco community to life.
Exactly.
What other missions do you have in your life? And please share more about your personal background.
I will say that I am very grateful to see and work for this project, because, you know, the new skills that children we need to give them at schools, so teachers too. And I will say that working with all these partners is very stimulating. It's an stimulated environment. I have a bachelor and a master degree in education science in adults training at the University of Geneva, and I have been working in schools when teachers are not there. I am a remplacement, I don't know how to say in English, but what I want to say is that a project, it's a process, an evolution. It's like a baby growing. And in fact, it has many stages. And I will say that I learn with these stages. And I am very lucky because I am in an environment at the EPFL where I work with colleagues who have become my teachers. You know, learning from peers is important for me, and I am very lucky to have my colleagues that help me to improve this project.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the final moment of this session, and I would like to thank all of you for being with us today. But more than that, let us all thank our guests for joining us and sharing insights into how they live and work during COVID-19. The work of the organizations, universities, companies they represent is very important, and we are very grateful to hear more from them, for them being here with us to share their stories and contribute to the overall development and impact in the world. And for those of you who followed us through the This Process Facebook Live, we also appreciate your presence. If you're interested in today's session and wish to receive more information, you can access our report, the ICT case repository on the coronavirus response, available at the This Stocktaking platform. To share your story and submit your ICT-related project, please contact us and join us at the This Forum 2021, where we will be welcoming you and your communities in discussing the power of ICTs in advancing sustainable development goals, in making impact. Once more, thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in our next session scheduled on Thursday, 4 p.m. Geneva time. Thank you very much again, and goodbye.